Welcome everybody to December's engine room chat with the four amigos and a dog. So we've got myself, Dave from Narrowboat Changing Pace. We've got Jeff, Chili Jam Jeff. We've got Glenn, formerly of Narrowboat Nutshell and a life full of meaning, and Saul from Barely Floating. Welcome, guys.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So hopefully, this is my first time hosting, so
quiet.
You'll have to forgive me if things go wrong. So we'll have a quick chat about what we've been doing on his own boats, like we normally do, and then we'll sort of like go on to a sort of broader discussion about things that have come up over the weekend and the past few weeks. So we'll go straight to Jeff, seeing as he's in the top right hand corner. Don't know if you've been doing auto lately, Jeff.
I ain't been doing anything on the boat, to be honest. I've popped in a few times to make sure it's all right, and it seems fine. I've started it up, put it in forward and reverse, just to make sure everything's fine. No problems at all. I've even stopped that water getting in somehow. I don't know how I've done it, but it's done.
You've done it.
I keep going there, think it's going to be full up because it's been raining, but there's nothing. So I don't know what it was. No idea.
That's right. No leaks.
I ain't been doing anything. I've not even cut the grass there. We're busy here.
Yeah.
Whatnot.
I saw the shelves.
Yeah, good shelves, them, aren't they?
Yeah.
Got lights on now. Cutting my hand today as well.
We did, sir.
Yeah, but no, I haven't done anything on the boat, to be honest. Last thing I did was the batteries. But I think we're there Saturday night, so.
Yeah. So have you had any plans for any winter cruising before Christmas?
I want to get out before Christmas, but there's so much. It's like, you do nothing for ages, and then all of a sudden, everything crams in, and you ain't got no time. So I don't know if we will or not, but we're definitely going to over there Saturday. Yeah. Have a night on it.
Yeah.
It's been weeks, man. It's been weeks since we've been on it.
Yeah, it's going to be a while, I was going to say, because you didn't stay over it when we were still there. I don't think you'd been there for a while, had you?
Since Wood Kitchen's finished, we ain't been back. We had like 6 weeks solid on it, didn't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do miss it. I need to get on it.
Yeah.
So, what have you been up to over the past couple of weeks?
Well, I fitted the shelf in my little cupboard on the front of the boat. I've just done a rough one for now. I'm going to do all the measurements and get some proper timber and put a new shelf in there. And I've also emptied one of the cupboards at the front, had some tools and some bits of screws and boxes of screws and things, and moved them into back at boat as well, just to get them out of the way of the kitchen so we can change what we're doing there. And I've got a bit of lino that's lent up that someday I'm going to get around to fitting onto the floor. Well, that's about it, really. It's been quite a bit of a busy month, really.
Mm. Yeah. Your engine's still plodding along then, is it?
Yeah, but it's really struggling to start. I've had it serviced and mucked about with, but that's not really made any difference. So I've got jobs that I'm going to do is probably get some new glow plugs. But he has mentioned, the engineer, he said your engine's pretty much on its last legs. You'll limp away through winter, but then in the summer you're going to need to do something with it. So probably going to buy a new one. Well, a recon.
Have you checked the compression on it or not?
No, we haven't had a chance to do that. I'm going to take one of glow plugs out. I can do it through that, can I? Through glow plug?
Yeah, I think you're out to take the injector out, but you should be able to take glow plugs out and test them one at a time.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you they're working.
I just thought, buy a new set, stick them all in, go for it. Because I can use them on. No.
Just don't snap them off in the head.
Yeah. They're pretty new anyway. But I think one of them's wobbling a bit, so I think it's been damaged. Either when it's been moved around or it's been put in.
Well, you've got to start with, isn't it? Put a set of glow plugs in and start from there.
Yeah, that's the cheapest option.
How he can condemn it if he hasn't put a compression tester on it or anything like that.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it's the age-old thing with the 2 barrels that emptied of all the fluid into the sump. He said, "Yeah,
Right.
that's a good indication that something's not right." But we've renewed pretty much everything else. So
Has it got an engine breather? Because they block up
um,
problems.
I've got air intake, but that's about it.
No, some of them have a gauze filter hidden somewhere on top of the rocker cover or somewhere on the side of the block. You might find one.
there's
No,
usually a pipe that comes out, isn't there, with a gauze filter in.
Has it got a filter on the end of the pipe?
Yeah.
Nope, no, nothing like that.
Just
No.
check you haven't got a filter. Because if it has got
Yeah,
a filter, it will cause all that sort of problems.
so that'll be on the other side of the engine, will it? Right
Could be
down in.
anywhere. It could be
Yeah.
coming off a pipe off your rocker cover. It could be bolted on the side of the engine block. Just have a look.
Yeah, I've got
we had
2
a
inspection chambers on the far side of the engine. There's 2 inspection chambers. One's just a flat plate, and the other one has a little pipe off it. I think that'll be it.
That could be a filter in there.
That'll be it.
That'll be it. Just take it off
And I
and
just take it out, clean it up, and
clean it. Because that would be the same problems as what you've got.
Yeah.
right.
If you can get some compressed air or something like that, when you take it off and blow it through, clean. If there's some gauze in there, take it out, clean it out, and try and blow it through with some compressed air. Make sure the actual piping blocked as well.
Builds
Yeah.
pressure on the crankcase.
And that could push the oil back up through.
And you'll be amazed what that can do if it's not breathing properly. It's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'll give that a go. I'll definitely give that a go. I'll write that down.
So yeah, do your heat plugs and then have a look for that, and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think they do have them on the BMC on those inspection plates. I remember taking those inspection plates off on our old BMC. They've got cork gaskets, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had to replace mine because one of them was leaking oil because it was perished, and they're really cheap to buy another set. If you take them off, you might as well replace them.
Yeah, don't put instant gasket or sealant around it. Just clean it all up and smear grease around it and do it up. Because that way you can take it off and it won't bugger it off when you take it off again. Just a nice smear of clean grease.
Yeah. And you'll be able to see, I mean, our Perkins engine had a breather up from the top. But it was quite a big pipe from the top cylinder head cover, and it went down the injector side of the engine, and it was sort of run behind. It was quite a big flexi pipe though that ran down, and it didn't go anywhere. It just sort of pointed towards the oil sump. Yeah, the oil catch. Sorry, the oil catcher.
Yeah. All right.
Look.
Yeah. So other than that, we've cleaned out chimney. We've had a lit fire. That's our winter preparation done. I know Louise was asking that. Yeah, that's what we've done for winter prep. And I'm thinking about putting a fridge in me under me floor in the kitchen. I don't know what people's thoughts are on that.
What, as in like a lift up fridge?
Yeah, just gonna put all, lift the floor up and put all my stuff in the void that's there.
Yeah, I've seen those. They make them quite posh on new boats, don't they? They make them hinged.
Yeah.
You can just lift all the stuff up and you can put bottles in it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, ours is probably about 4 inches deep. Yeah, 4 inches deep. So I get a fair bit of stuff in,
Yeah. Have you got a fridge on board then?
Yeah, but we've turned it off because it uses a lot of gas in the winter time.
Is it a freewheel?
Yeah, and we've got a box that we keep in the engine room because it's cool, and outside on the well deck when we can, because the temperature's low enough now for that.
You have to be careful when if you're going under the floor. Depends on where your ballast is.
There's no ballast in that bit.
There's no ballast in that.
Yeah, they're both sides of it. There's this big section in the middle that's clear. So
good use of space.
Yeah.
Was that one of those freeways? Is that not like a caravan fridge you've got in there?
It is, yeah. It's a 3-way one. It's gas, electric.
When we bought our first boat, the survey bloke condemned us. He said they shouldn't be used in boats.
It's new boats.
We had same, but when we were building ours, and he said if your boat's got one on, you're allowed to use it, because I think originally you could use them, but you couldn't put one in a new build.
No,
I think it's like these Moso water heaters. You're not allowed to put them on a new build because they ain't got a balanced flow. But if you've got one on already, you can replace it.
Yeah. Oh, he was something to do with the ventilation or something, in it, on the gas fridges, and he recommended we took ours out, and I did. I took it out and put a shoreline in, 12-volt shoreline.
I'd like to do that, but I don't think my batteries would cope. Or my battery.
Your battery.
No, you say that, mate. Our first boat only had 2 leisure batteries, and that never went flat. Never went flat, that boat.
No.
Had the 2 smallest solar panels on the top. And when we used to go out for 2 or 3 weeks, the max we went out, I think, was about 3 weeks. And the 2 little batteries, 2 leisure batteries, and it never had a problem. Never had a problem. So they don't draw a lot. You just keep them turned down.
Yeah. That's what we
I
do.
never turned ours off in our boat, in our big boat, and even when we were off grid, we'd go away for a week and we'd leave it switched on.
Yeah.
We had solar panels, so we had a couple of solar panels. So
right. Yeah. Well, we're thinking about we were going to go upgrade, because we're going to do next year. We're going to do a load of stuff, so we're going to upgrade there. And I know something later on we can talk about. I've got to sort out the ballast situation in the boat, because ours is a bit low in the water, and I want to raise her up and balance her out a bit better. She's a little bit to one side, so I need to sort the ballast out a bit better.
Yeah. Got that same problem.
Yeah. Mine's the same.
Yeah. So I just want to make it a little, because we've not put a lot of stuff in the boat. And most of the stuff is on one side, so we are changing the layout of the bathroom, hopefully next year. So we may be able to get a washing machine in that'll give us a bit of weight on the other side and maybe help us out. I mean, it's literally kilos. I can move one of me. I've got a spare battery, and I can move the battery to one side of the boat, and it sorts it out. But there's still a lot of weight in the back. I'm starting to empty the back out a bit.
Yeah.
So where's your water tank, Saul? Is that up front?
Right at the bow, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Does it level it out when you fill it?
No, I still have the same little thing. I have moved one of the a bit of ballast at the front over to the far side, to the opposite side, and that's helped a little bit, but it's still a little bit too far over. Especially when we sit down, the whole boat moves.
Yeah.
So we're changing it orientation at bed as well.
So,
instead of having it side along wall, we're going to have it across the boat.
So when your water tank is empty, is it significantly worse sitting back in water?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the front comes right up.
Yeah. Ours levels out when we fill up with water. Ours levels out quite a lot, and it sits nice. But as soon as you start running water off, front starts coming up a little bit.
Yeah.
I
mean, it is. Yeah. It's overplated as well, so it's dropped probably an inch in the water with the amount of overplating, and it's not so much up the front. It's sort of about a quarter of the way down, right towards the back, that it's overplated both sides. So it's quite a lot of weight there.
Right. Yeah, that does make a bit of difference. We spoke about that, didn't we? You got to get that ballast out of the back, get a bit of weight out of the back of the boat, really.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You put more leisure batteries in, that'll just make it worse.
Yeah. I mean, I did think about having, because we've got a solar panels, a mono solar panel, and I did think about putting a poly one further up the boat and having that to a battery that just sat and fed the fridge, and sort of see if that, because in the summertime we need a fridge full time pretty much, but in the wintertime we can use the floor in the well deck, so it wouldn't matter if it didn't have enough power for battery, but we just keep an eye on it. I believe, and we've got a poly on our camper van, and that thing's phenomenal. It keeps the batteries topped up summer and winter. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds. Yeah, I'll try that. I'd give that a go. A decent battery with a solar panel. Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be enough for a new shoreline. I think that would probably be all right.
Yeah.
In the summer, definitely. But yeah, cool.
Right, so moving on to Mr. Glenn.
Mr. Warner, that would be
Mr. Warner.
So obviously the boat went last Sunday. It feels like ages ago, but it was only obviously last Sunday. So since we've last been on, obviously we did our final cruise, which we spent 2 weeks, I think it was. It feels like longer than 2 weeks. It must. I think it was it 2 weeks. 2 weeks, yeah, 2 weeks cruise, which we had no problems at all. I didn't mess with anything. I didn't do any oil changes. I just did my checks every day. She still doesn't use any oil or water, so it stayed at the right temperature. We sat up. We had to run the engine a few times because we were sitting for 3 days.
Yeah.
For batteries. While I was at work, we stayed in the same spot. So we stayed in Milton Keynes for 3 days, then moved up to Weedon for another 3 days, and then a couple of days up at Wilton. But yeah, no, it was handed over. She was handed over all fine. The bloke, the couple who bought it, should I say, we took them through 5 locks at Wilton, and then they wanted to do the last one on their own. So they were confident to do the Braunston flight and the Braunston tunnel the next day. He'd only ever had a go on his mate's boat, so he was quite a novice, but he seemed to pick it up quite well. He's a diesel fitter, he's a truck fitter, so he knows his engine stuff. Seems all quite happy with that, and I mean, I think that they've got lots of plans for Nutshell, so I think there's going to be a few changes going on board. But yeah, I mean, you know, as I said to you the other day, we have. Am I allowed to say that we're looking? Yeah, go on. Yeah, that we're on. I'm just checking the boss. That I'm okay to say, but yeah, we've been looking at some, because the idea is to get a smaller holiday boat. So we've been looking, and we'll come on to the questions, because everyone that I've approached to have a look at one, I have this stream of questions for them, because obviously having now owned a narrowboat and having two boats, it's given me a good insight to what I need to ask for, what I need to check, so I don't fall foul of a dodgy engine or a dodgy hull, or it's
like you say, we can sort of like talk about that in a broader fashion in a bit.
Yeah. But apart from that, we didn't have any. No, I didn't want to start messing with the boat because it was all working as it should. And
don't fix it.
It's exactly. Yeah. So I didn't. There's okay. All the spares have gone with the boat. So he's a diesel fitter, and he's heard it running, and he said it sounded sweet. So that's all you can ask for.
It is. So did you sell it through an agent, Glenn, or were it just?
No. We just we advertised it on Facebook. As to be honest with you, it would have ended up at an agent, but we only had 2 people look at it. The first person that looked at it, they didn't really know what they were looking for. They'd actually come to have a look at the mooring, but then when they found out the boat was for sale, they came and had a look at the boat as well. But I think they decided to get a wide beam, so it was obviously not what they wanted. That's fair, which was fair enough. But the second people that came out to look, which was literally just as we'd almost decided not to have any more viewings, on the boat because we just didn't have time, which I know sounds mad, but and just give it to a broker that had the time to do the job. This chap turned up, this couple turned up, and within half an hour of being there, bought it. So no broker. It meant I could do it a little bit cheaper for them as well. You know what I mean? I didn't have to worry about the broker's fee, so they gained out of it. We gained out of it. You know, it was a quick, easy transaction, no messing about. You know, I would say that it helped definitely having a survey, even though the survey was 18 months old or 2 years old, let's say. I think the survey makes a big difference.
Gives people a peace of mind, doesn't it?
I know it's 2 years old. Not a lot happens in 2 years. It'd have to be pretty bad if that much changed in a boat that in 2 years it was going from floating to sinking, you know, on a survey. So and they were quite happy with it. It was only a whole survey because that's the only bit. I mean, I would never bother having a full survey done again, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd be interested in gas side of it, but pretty much everything else is.
Glenn, would you say if we were to buy another boat and had a whole survey done, would you then say just have a brand spanking new BSS, safety certificate, and that would be good enough?
I would be happy that the gas system was safe. With a BSS, but I do know, and I know it goes on to a conversation we're going to have later, but I do know that if they can't see certain aspects of that gas system, they'll just say that it's not visible and pass it. That it's not accessible, I think the word is they use. And it's mainly on the older boats it's an issue. And it's more to do with the gas pipes being joined, because back in the old days they used to just get gas pipes like you'd have in a house and join them with connectors, which is what our original boat had. It had 1/2-inch gas pipe running down, which ran the cooker and and it was the full length of the boat. It was 45 foot and it was from the front to the back, and it had about 3 joins in it. So when the full survey was done on that boat, it came up because the bloke went digging for it, that it was a joined pipe and it needed to be a continuous one pipe from back to front with no connectors in the cabin, with no joins in the cabin. So that was one that we had to do. But to be honest with you, looking back on that job, I could have done that. I could have done that with a roller pipe quite easily. It wouldn't have been. I mean, I would have probably just got someone to check the connections back and front, and it just has to be exposed. The pipe has to be able to see the full length of it. So they just run it usually under a gunnel. That's where it was in nutshell. You could see it, but all it ran in nutshell was the cooker. There was no instant boiler. So I'll go definitely for a BSS. But as I said, now knowing what I know from previous, my main concern on any boat would just be the condition of the hull, really. For me, the engine, you can do your tests, but you can't, unless it's not starting, obviously. One day an engine can start, it's like buying a second-hand car, isn't it? One day it's fine. Next week down the road, cam belt snaps and it's knackered. So I think you take your chances on the engine front, because they didn't really give us. All he said on our original survey on our first boat about the engine was that he noticed that it had to have easy start to start, and there was a bit of smoke, and that was about it. That's about as deep as he went with it. And he did do the engine mounts and stuff like that, and he did mention things about the engine mounts, but he couldn't obviously say anything about piston condition or valves or any of that sort of thing. He can only go what he's seeing.
Yeah, that comes up on your safety inspection anyway, doesn't it? Engine mounts. So now David Johns on his narrowboat cruising the cut, he had to replace all of his because of that. They suggested he do that. I'm pretty sure it was David. Yeah.
We didn't. Our gearbox mounts were shot on our gearbox, and the engine mounts were shot on our old boat, and it passed its BSS with that.
Right.
I've
never fussy one.
Yeah, they've never checked our engine mounts on BSS.
No, maybe they just pointed it out to him as he was passing by. Maybe.
I think
in one of his videos, he had it all to replace all of them.
Survey would pull it up.
Maybe on a survey. I don't.
Maybe because he had the certificate done at the same time, didn't
he? Yeah, I don't know how old his boat is because as well, if it's 25 years old,
it's a fairly old one.
It's got to have a survey anyway for the insurance. It's 20 or 25 years. I can't remember. I think it's 25. Some insurance companies won't insure them unless they've got a whole survey attached.
Yeah, ours is like that.
Yeah. So, but we had Nutshell done when she was 20 years old. So, just to preempt. It's not dear to have a whole survey. It's quite dear to get a full survey done. It's almost double the price of a whole survey.
You can do that yourself anyway.
What, the
whole survey? You can buy the thing from Amazon.
What, the hammer test thing?
The depth thing, yeah.
Yeah, the ultrasonic test.
Yeah. I mean, I get that you could do that if it was out of the water. Obviously, you still got to get it dragged out of the water.
Yeah.
But I was more. I mean, our whole survey guy. He was only there to do a whole survey. He did a walk through the boat and he valued it. I didn't ask him to, but he did. He did a walk through the boat and said what it had on board in his report, and he didn't go into any depth on anything inside of it, but just said what it was, and the report on the. I suppose if you know what you're doing with one of those tests, and it's got to be out of the water, obviously, to do it. You could do it yourself.
Yeah, I think they're fairly easy to use, but I think a surveyor will look more at if you've got any pitting and stuff like that. Whereas one of them ultrasonic testers won't check. They won't measure the pitting. They'll only measure sort of like a sound piece of metal. You know what I mean? A flat surface. So if you measure an area where you've got 5 mil thickness, if you've got any pitting, it won't pick up how deep your pitting is.
That's down to eye, is it?
That's down, and they have like probes where they'll stick it in. It's like I don't know, an engineering term. It's like a depth mic. And it's just like a little thing that he screws from a flat surface, and it digs into where pitting is, and it tells him how deep pitting is.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, but
and then I suppose as a novice, you might not know about aft chines and rake strips and rubbing and how big a rubbing corner is meant to be, because that came up on our survey. That was mentioned on our survey on both sides. Just as the bit starts to curve round, they leave bits of metal, don't they, on the flat plate sticking out, and that's where most of the wear takes place when you're mooring, and whenever you're rubbing, that's where it rubs. Yeah. And I don't know how big they're meant to be, but they just build them up with weld, don't they, when they come out of the water?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but apart from that, all good and all good and gone.
All good and gone.
All good and gone. Yeah.
So we'll move on to me and changing pace. Or me and Louise, anyway. We haven't done much cruising. As Louise says, my bad planning really dropped us in a spot, so we stuck where we are because I missed a lock that were down for refurbishment. So we did a bit of cruising, found that the lock was shut, and I had to go back to where we started. So that's not that's not fixed till 17th of December. So as plans to where we were going to spend winter, sort of like went up in air. So, but yeah, we've sort of like done a little bit. I've tightened a few belts up on alternator, and we had a slight problem where we got a lot of water in our engine bay, and it was coming in while we were cruising, and I think it was coming through the stern gland, and I think I've sussed out what it were, because on your stern gland there's like a shell that you bolt up, isn't there, to squeeze your graphite rope against the prop shaft.
Right.
Ours has got two studs with nuts, and you tighten it up, and it sort of like causes the friction onto your shaft, and then you turn your greaser, and it fills that area with grease and keeps it all lubricated. Well, every time we stopped, we got quite a big drip coming through stern gland, and when we were doing a fairly long trip, we were getting a fair amount of water in engine bay. And I think what I've realised is the nuts that hold the pack, this clamp that holds your packing in, were just normal nuts, and I think the vibration has been loosening them, so it's took the tension off the packing. So as you're going along, and the vibration, the nuts loosen off. They don't come off completely, but it sort of like it sort of like releases the pressure on the packing around the shaft, and it was leaking. So a couple of little trips that we've done since, I tightened everything up, and the couple of little trips we've done since, the leak hasn't come back, and I've gone down and tightened it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some nylon nuts on there so that the vibration doesn't let it release the tension on the packing. And it weren't something. And it weren't something. When I was down there a week ago, I thought they're just normal nuts, and you know when I hadn't took no notice of them before, and I thought if they're vibrating loose, that you know, it was just something that twigged. So that I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna put some nylon nuts on there, and hopefully that'll sort that. I've replaced. We had a problem with his bloody flashing lights again.
Oh really?
Yeah. And one at we were switching kitchen light on, and rest of lights in boat were going dim, and it were, you know, they weren't flashing. They were and everything. You turn switch on and off a couple of times, and then they'd eventually come bright again. So today, when we got back to the boat, I replaced all light switches, because I think that, apart from bulbs, wiring, and everything else I've done, the switches were the only thing that I haven't changed. So I'm hoping, and touch wood, since we've been back, we haven't had no flickering, and we haven't had a reoccurrence of all the lights dimming when we've turned kitchen light off. So let's hope that that's sorted that out. And if it is the switches, after all this time, all the pain that I've gone through, changing everything else and rewiring stuff, and that, I'll be glad that it's fixed, but I'll be mighty mighty peed off, shall we say.
Yeah. Nightmare. Oh, well.
But other than that, yeah, we're all good. We're just waiting for Christmas now, I think.
You're not going to move? You're not going to try and move any further?
I think we're going to move from where we are. We're going to go through next town to a mooring that we stopped before we came this way, just outside. And it was a bit out of way, other side of nearest town. So I think we're going to do that on the weekend of the 17th when that lock opens. So, and then we'll just be out of way because we've been down here 6 weeks now. So I think we've overstayed as welcome.
Oh, really?
So, and we don't like stopping in one place too long. I know we haven't really had a choice in the matter with lock being down. We didn't want to stay in the middle of town, so we came back out into countryside. But I know visitors' moorings sort of like go on to 14 days, but we've been here 2 weeks now, so it is time to move.
Yeah.
But I see Louise has put something on. Don't you have to scratch the paint off for a tester? Yeah. Yes, you do. In the area that you're testing, and a surveyor will do that. He'll pick certain points along the hull at certain levels above, on the water level and below, and he'll do like a grid reference of where he tests it. But once he scraped it off, you just dab a bit of bitumen back on, and it don't cause any problems. Is that what happened when you had your hull survey done, Glenn?
Yeah, she was covered in yellow marks and round scratches off. Yeah, it was in the picture. But she'd not lost. I mean, the only thing they did say from the inside, they had limited access to the floor, under the floor. But I presume they get quite a good reading from the outside in for depth, which is the main thing, really. The only thing in a nutshell we used to do is sometimes in the winter the condensation used to form in the base. It's always done that, and then as soon as the weather gets better, it goes. But I thought it had a leak for years and years and years. For the years we've had it, I always thought it was leaked, and then I realised last year it was actually condensation. I think we didn't have it as bad last year because we were, on our rural mooring, we weren't trying to heat the whole boat. So where it stayed cold, it didn't get so much condensation. The condensation only seemed to form in the places where you were trying to keep the heat. So the front, the bedroom, and the bathroom. The rest of it didn't really, not as bad as it has done on previous years. Because in previous years, when we were hooked up to the mains, I put little heaters in the back, which was probably not a good idea. In hindsight, you think it's a good idea for your water pipes and stuff like that, but I don't think it's a good idea for condensation. Because it was polystyrene as well, which was really.
I've just got a quick question for Jeff, if I can ask it.
You
got many trees down up where you are?
Trees down?
No,
we have one in that corner here, a little one, but apart from that, no.
We've
got loads up here.
As bad as you, mate. I don't think we had it anywhere near as bad, did we, Jeff? It didn't seem to. It's
worse when I went to York the other day. That was pretty bad up there.
Yeah, we've got a tree in front of us. We can't move till Thursday now, at the earliest. They've got it's that big. It's such a big tree. It's gone right in the canal, and they're having to drag it out with a tractor. It's all underwater.
Nothing major. The weather weren't as bad as up there.
We dodged a bullet. we weren't at Wilton on Saturday. We was expecting terrible weather, and we didn't really get it. I think it was worse Friday when I moved the boat Friday afternoon. I think it was worse than it was, on the Saturday. I think we moved the boat on the Saturday. We moved 5 boats down so we could get nearer where the car was parked, because we were still bloody moving stuff out of the boat.
It was just past Leicester it started getting worse.
Yeah, it seemed to be we just seemed to dodge a bullet, I think.
Yeah, I got all the way to Wakefield and had to turn around and come back.
Did you?
Yeah, saying that. Heading for Leeds, where
York. I got as far as Wakefield, I think it was, and they said, "I'll turn around and come back."
Right. What was it? Just because of the weather?
Because they weren't cutting the turf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you went all the way down there to come back. Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a journey, isn't it?
Hiya, guys from Narrowboat Life Unlocked.
All right. So Anthony and Paul, they just got back about 5 p.m. to a very cold boat.
Didn't we all?
No.
Well, apart from you, Glenn.
Sitting right next to the heater.
Yeah. So on that point, we'll go to something that were talked about over the weekend when we met up with some other vloggers, and as you know, when boat vloggers get together, we were talking about boats and various things, and Mark from
Traveling
Joe, yeah, I was just about to say. He came up with something that stumped me and Saul really, really badly. We were talking about weed hatches, and he's got on his weed hatch, he hasn't got a top plate on his weed hatch. He's only got a plate at the bottom of his weed hatch. And me and Saul were, and we brought Glenn in on it, and we were all.
I was horrified.
Yeah, it were like, I've never come across that before. I mean, I don't know if you have, Jeff, but it was
like gone like that deep, and it goes in the bottom.
Yeah, and then he's just got a screw that comes up, and then just a bar that goes across top of his weed hatch, but it's all open. And
it does the same thing. It's just you've got that much difference.
Yeah,
he
it's really
says
deep.
It's really deep. Says he's got a really deep weed hatch because he has to get his full arm down the weed hatch to get to his prop, but he hasn't got an actual plate on top of it. And we were like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, obviously it's all right. It ain't sunk, so.
No. It's called. Apparently, it's an unsinkable weed hatch. Narrowboat Life Unlocked.
Said that about Titanic, didn't they?
Theirs is the same. The same.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
We should have got them in on that conversation. We'd have found that out yesterday.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was just weird. I've never come across that in any boats that I've seen.
Yeah, always had a cover. But yeah, it was a bit. We did all gasp when he told us, but he said it's so far down that he doesn't get any water. He doesn't even get it coming up when he's got under propulsion, does he? He said it won't make much difference, but he has to put his arm a long way, doesn't he? A long way.
Yeah.
So the bottom plate on our weed hatch, I were always told that the bottom plate is to stop cavitation from your prop coming up and hitting your top plate. It doesn't really seal anything. Your top plate must seal to stop water coming in your engine bay. And I was always told that the bottom plate was just to stop the water coming up and vibrating against the underneath of your top plate. I don't know if that's right. I
Yeah.
was told it was a cavitation plate.
Oh, but no, I don't know.
Just
I'm
like
not
a baffle. That's all it is. It's a baffle, like they have in tankers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just stops it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just saw a comment and from Jam Cam and Cam said my weed hatch is deep, so you need arms like an orangutan to get to the prop.
yeah. I'd be no good. I'm a short horse, so I'd never get down there.
Yeah. Just do what Saul does. He just jumps in the canal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saul just jumps in the canal. Don't mess around with the weed hatch, do you, mate?
No.
but,
Just get him
but
in
we
the skin
Skinny
piece. That's what I
dippers.
do. Just get him in the skin piece.
Yeah, but we were taught we did start to talk about that over the weekend, and you were on about your because you really struggled to get it to your weed hatch, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to go it underneath an engine bay,
Yeah.
and weren't you thinking about putting an hatch in the top of your deck so you could get to it?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's going to take some fabrication and what have you. So I'm going to have to. It's going to have to be done, I think, because I can't keep jumping in cut. It's freezing in winter.
Jeff's got a hatch as well because he's just broken one of his hinges.
Yeah, that's got to be welded up when it goes in for blacking next year.
Yeah.
I've only had my weed hatch off a couple of times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I had to get it off, I had to get a screwdriver and bang it. It's that sealed. But I reckon I've had it off twice, if that.
Yeah,
but
well, that's twice I've had it off now. And the first time I managed to get the damn thing off, a boat come whizzing by. I thought we were going to sink.
yeah.
I was led underneath. I could do nothing, just watch all this water. And I thought, this is coming in. Anyway, it didn't, luckily.
Yeah,
I think
I'm surprised it hasn't got a hatch in. I'm surprised it hasn't got a pivot in hatch in there to be able to get to it.
Yeah, it's a weird setup, but there we are. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Yeah, you could do it fairly easy really, without any fabrication if you wanted to. I was thinking about it as I was driving home today. Strangely enough, if you sort of like if you decide the size and where the position, you could cut the deck out with a slitting saw on a 4.5-inch grinder. If you're fairly careful, get it nice and neat. And once you've took that plate out, if you get some flat bar and they sell it in wicks,
Yeah.
if you make a rectangular arch to sit underneath where you've cut the hole out,
Yeah.
drill and countersink it, bolt that flat bar in place, so the plate that you've took out sits on like a picture frame, so it'll sit flush with your deck, so it's not a trip hazard.
But then you get it rains.
Yeah, you'd have to look about putting some seal around it. I mean, you can get depending on what thickness your deck plate is. If it's only 3 or 4 mil, you might get away with some. You can buy like the seals that go round car doors that you stick on and sit it in, and that get you a waterproof seal. Or but I think there's sort of like ways and means around that.
Ours got little V's. Ours has got little V channels around the edge of ours. That it sits
my deck's already sunk.
You've got that as well. It comes out your side.
That go each side of the boat to the water. When they're not, the water goes in between the gap, if you like, of the door you've cut out, goes in the channel.
I'm going to need a Dave. That's all I'm going to need, isn't it?
If we get up there next year, I'll do it for you.
Yeah. There'll be a beer in it for you.
I'd hope there'd be more than one.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire in me coming out, you see.
Yeah. So something else that I wanted to talk about before we go, because we've been on nearly 50 minutes, is Glenn looking, now they've sold their boat and maybe looking for an holiday boat. What would you guys, if you were looking for a boat, I mean, we've all bought boats, what would be the make or break when you were looking at buying a boat? What would break the deal or what would make the deal for you? Is there anything that you'd sort of like look at and go, no, walk away from that? Or anything that sort of like specifically you go, yeah, that's what I'm after and I'm not going to take no for an answer?
Yeah.
I personally was told by my mate, when you find the right boat, as soon as you get on it, you'll know it's the one. And it's right, because as soon as we got on ours, we knew it. We looked at quite a few, and some of them were wrecks, the state of them inside, and others were spot on. But just this one just clicked. I don't know why. It just clicks. You know it's the one.
Yeah,
Well,
same here.
we had that, Jeff. Before we built ours, before we built Changing Pace, we looked at loads and loads of boats, and we went to see one that were down near Oxford somewhere, I can't remember, and we got on it, and it were perfect layout, it were everything we wanted, and we thought, yeah, this is it, and we went and spoke to people who were selling it at the marina, and they said, yeah, it's great. One problem: if you try and move it, it'll sink because the hull was rotten. So
your problem's got a dodgy switch.
and we were gutted. We were gutted about that.
Why was it wrong with it?
It were the hull were that corroded that they wouldn't let anybody move the boat because they were scared that it'd corrode through and sink.
Really?
It was that bad.
In the meter.
The advert.
No, it didn't say anything about that. It were, I mean, if we'd have known about it, we probably wouldn't have gone and looked at it. It were only when we showed a definite interest in buying it that it came out, and then we paid the owner of the boat. We gave him a nominal fee because he'd had a survey or somebody had had a survey. We gave him a nominal fee to look at the survey, and it more or less wanted complete overplating, and at that time it was going to cost more than the boat were up for sale to have it overplated, and it we just we walked away from it.
Yeah, I know it's 15 grand. Yeah, 15 grand to get all the overplating done.
Yeah,
a lot of money in it.
I thought, yeah, I mean, if I bought, because our boat is overplated, but she was relatively cheap. The next boat we buy, I'll be spending more money, and I wouldn't expect it to be overplated. I wouldn't pay more for an overplated boat, even though they say, oh, it's good for another 30 years and what have you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
You will at the moment, mate. Trust me. You'll pay more at the moment than you, no matter how overplated it is. It doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, it doesn't, does it? Well, yeah, I think that's the only thing that I wouldn't do again is buy a boat that was overplated, because I'm going to spend considerably more when I get the lottery win and that. So,
all right.
So on your look, going back to you, Glenn, I know you're maybe not actively looking, but you are looking. What's on your list of haves and have-nots on looking for a boat?
The questions I've asked most people, straight away is, well, one, make sure is it a flat bottom to start with, not a springer, because some people don't know. Some people just obliterally don't. When we looked at our first boat, we nearly went to see it, and then the last question, someone said to me, "Oh, check if it's a VO," and I was like, "Is it a VO?" And I didn't know what a springer was. And they said, yeah, it's a Springer. And I was like, and it wasn't in the advert. So we didn't go and see it because everyone says, oh, no, don't go for that. But I asked for the spec. So I asked, is it a 10.64 or a, you know what I mean? That's the first thing I asked. Second thing, is it got any overplating? Has it got a survey of any description, any recent description? As I say, I don't care about the top. The hull, as long as the hull is all right. And now obviously I'm asking about the engine. Is it air or water cooled? Because you mentioned that the other day. So that's another question I've been asking. I'm not, obviously I want the engine to be running. It wouldn't break the deal for me if it was the right boat and the right money. It wouldn't, it wouldn't break the deal for me because it's nothing that can't be sorted at some point. Not saying it's cheap, but it's something. And the interior, what we're actually, we want a nice paint. We're not worried about the inside, but we want it to have a nice paint job.
No.
I don't really want to. We actually bumped into our old marina manager yesterday, and he's just having his boat repainted, and I think his boat is 60 foot, I think, or 62. It's something like that, and he's having a paint job done. It's quite expensive, but they guarantee it for 10 years.
Really?
And if you take it in after the 10 years, they'll refresh it as long as it's the same colour for $2,000.
Wow.
So they'll underwrite it. The paint won't fade or go right, for 10 years for the money. And then after 10 years, you can take it back, pay them $2,000, and they'll refresh the whole paint job. They won't repaint it, but they'll make it look as good as it did when you first picked it up, which is quite a promise.
It is.
So, but you put it all in writing. So, but I would, after having, Nutshell's paint work could have done with been doing, but it was a mammoth job. It was just 70 foot. It's just mammoth. It's just cost. It's just a massive cost. So we really wouldn't mind having something that looks nice. Paint works good. Inside, not so bothered, because that can all be changed and sorted out. Decent hull, survey if possible. I'd like to know who the manufacturer is of the boat. As well, just so I can do a bit of research on it to find out if they're still around, if there's any feedback on their builds, because that's another one I never even thought of before. But some builders have really good reputation, some builders don't have great reputations, and I just saw that Narrowboat Life Unlocked asked what sort of size we're looking for, and we're depending on stability, because stability of the boat has got a lot to do, and it's definitely going to be shorter. It's going to be between 25 and probably 45 foot, somewhere in between those two things, because it's just a holiday boat. It'll just be a holiday boat for us, and we won't be living on it. So something between that. I wouldn't even mind an ex-hire boat. If an ex-hire boat came up, the right size, that's geared for people to stay on board, then I'd probably look at one of those as well, on the off chance, on the hopefulness that it's been looked after and maintained, and
Yeah, hire boats tend to be a bit longer though, don't they? I think they tend to start around 45, 50 foot.
Oh no, the one with our friends hired one the other day, and theirs was 40.
Right?
Yeah, it was a nice little boat. Yeah, it was a nice little boat. It was solid. You know what I mean? It was solid. I think yours, Jeff's quite. I know yours is bigger, but yours is quite. Is it yours that's made of quite thick steel at the top?
I think it's 10, 8 and 6, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, yours. I've got a feeling yours is a little bit thicker than the norm.
Ours is a Liverpool boat.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, Jeff's looks a little bit more solid. So, what else have we changed? Anthony said that they nearly bought an ex-hire boat, They're well serviced and they tend to get changed every 5 years. Depends on the company normally.
Yeah,
It does depend on the company because I know that.
I know. I've got 975 boats on hire.
Yeah. There's a company that in a town near, not far from here, that do their boats are all 1970s.
Yeah.
So
we started hiring on a 35-foot narrowboat, and you pull bed down off at side at wall. It just tilted down. It were an interesting boat, that.
Was it?
And the shower was a stainless steel 2-foot square cupboard at end of boat. It was like you couldn't put your arms up in shower. It were a nightmare. It was tiny little boat, but we had a good week's fun on that.
Yeah. So
28-footer.
well, the one we were just looking at today. Was 27.
Yeah,
27
foot.
Not as a liverboard, eh?
Not
not as a liverboard. No.
You know a chap that was living on our old marina that he was living in a 20. I think the cabin was. I don't think his boat was any more than 20 foot. It was all cabin pretty much. It was a little bit wider than a standard, but he was living on board that. Literally, it originally had an outboard engine, then he had an inboard engine put in it, and he literally had a bed, which it was a sofa, but he kept it as a bed permanently, and it had the tiniest wardrobe and 2-ring cooker, and then it's not. And the thing is, it's not for living aboard really. So it's for holidays, and so the maximum we'd be on it at a time is a few weeks really. I mean, the plan is that what we were thinking of doing, because it's easier to moor and turn around, would be to go out cruising for 4 days, get as far as we can, then go back and go to work and do what we need to do, then go back again, then move again and see another bit of the canal network, and then maybe then have 2 weeks and we'd already be the other side of Birmingham or something, and we'd then have we'd have 2 weeks off work and then go as far as we could get, and then do the same on the return.
Yeah.
But just
marina hop
to keep it all cheaper, because 35 foot, cheaper to black, cheaper to keep, cheaper to everything. It's been great being on a 70-foot boat, but you have all the fees that go with that, and it is a real nightmare to get into a marina anywhere. The amount of marinas we rang to try and get in for a couple of nights, 70 foot, no chance. You know what I mean? They just don't have the moorings for them. So it's just too big. So we'll see what comes along. I'm not going to rush into anything. I think it's too soon to buy one yet anyway, because I think the prices are still a bit. So it seems to be £1,000 a foot at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is what new prices were when they were new a few 10 or 15 years ago. It was £1,000 a foot for a new boat, not a bloody second-hand one.
Not a second-hand one. Yeah.
Would you buy a sail away?
Nah, I can't be bothered, mate. I thought about it. I just I don't mind. I mean, I want to be able to use it straight away. I'm not going to be I just don't think I've got the time at the moment and the patience to fit one out.
Yeah.
Be honest with you, I wouldn't. If someone had started one, I might buy one that someone started.
I think a project, because I think a lot of people started project boats
in
lockdown and that, and I think they'll start coming up over next 6 months.
I think there'll be a glut of boats up for sale in the next 6 months for everyone that's bought one and was doing it up during lockdown or used to go on holiday abroad and bought a boat. I think, and once steel gets back online, I think it'll be Yeah, I think there'll be. Just need to hang fire and not jump into the first thing that we see. And we've done that so many times. You know, we just go and see something and think, oh yeah, that's the one. And we peak too early. I think it's the word. Peak too early.
Peak too early.
Yeah, but
yeah. Well, we've been on an hour and 5 minutes. I think we ought to say good night. Until next time. Thank you all for joining. Thank you everybody that's watched and commented. And wish you all a Merry Christmas. I don't think we'll see you again. And I don't think we'll be back on till probably the second week in January. I don't think anybody wants to do it day after New Year's Day, do they?
No, not really.
But we'll arrange it for early July for the next one, if that's all right.
Early July, all right.
Early July, early January.
January. Yeah, that's wishful thinking. I was watching a vlog earlier and it was sun shining. All sun's gone to my head. But yeah, early January, and cool. But yeah, thanks for joining us again, guys. I hope I've first time as an host haven't been too bad, being too painful for you. And we'll say good night to everybody.
See you later.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.